evening. I call to order this May 6th meeting of the Winston-Salem City Council and ask the City Secretary to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Larson.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Bessie.
Here.
Councilmember Scipio.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Burke.
Here.
Councilmember Adams.
Here.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Here. Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you please join the City Council and me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Would you join the City Council and me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I recognize our Sergeant-at-Arms, Lieutenant John Morris. Lieutenant, good to have you with us tonight. May we have item H1, please.
Proclamation declaring May 6, 2019 as Delta Sigma Theta Day. Whereas Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is a private not-for-profit organization whose purpose is to foster public service, scholarship, and sisterhood. And whereas it was founded on January 13, 1913 by 22 collegiate women at Howard University in Washington, D.C. and was incorporated in 1930. And whereas in 1939, the Alpha Nu Sigma chapter was chartered, and in 1959, the name was changed to the Winston-Salem Alumna chapter. And whereas the city has one undergraduate chapter, the Pi Omicron chapter at Wake Forest University. And whereas the major programs of this sorority are centered on the organization's 5-point programmatic thrust: economic development, educational development, international awareness and involvement, physical and mental health, and political awareness and involvement. And whereas members of this sorority are active in local, state, and national politics, and the group has won numerous awards on all levels. And whereas chapter program highlights include donations, financial and in-kind, to community nonprofits, partnerships with other community organizations to bring awareness about political issues affecting our city, state, and nation, providing volunteers for Packathon to fill the needs of hunger on an international level, Second Harvest Food Bank, Hope of Winston-Salem, and Secu Family House, a partnership with the Salvation Army Center of Hope, Go Red Zumbathon and other events, Triad Ladder of Hope, Financial Fortitude Workshop, voter registration, engagement, mobilization, and voter rights information, scholarships, and providing volunteer hours and donations to the Winston-Salem Forsyth County school system. And whereas annually the sorority celebrates the events, programs, and progress of the previous year, and 2019 marks the 80th celebration of the Winston-Salem Alumni Chapter. Now, therefore, I, Alan Joines, Mayor of City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim Monday, May 6, 2019, Delta Sigma Theta Day in Winston-Salem and commend the positive influence on the members on this city.
Thank you. We had an opportunity to meet with a number of the Delta representatives here, Councilmember Adams, Councilmember Scipio, and Councilmember McIntosh earlier, and had a great discussion about things facing our city, and we so grateful for the work of the Deltas here in our community and really nationwide. So I've asked Councilmember Adams and Councilmember Scipio if you would please present the proclamation on my behalf. I did wear my red tie today, but
he does the same thing when AK comes out. He wears his pink tie.
Smart man.
Mayor, members of the council, and the listening audience, we have our president of the Winston-Salem Alumni Chapter here. Councilmember Scipio and myself are both members of the sorority itself, Delta Sigma Theta. Councilmember Scipio just celebrated her 50th Delta-versary, and last year was my 45th Delta-versary. We want you to have this proclamation on behalf of the Office of the Mayor and the Winston-Salem City Council, and our president will have a few words to say. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Marietta Smith, and on behalf of the Winston-Salem Alumni Chapter,
of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, we want to thank you, Mayor Joines, City Council members Denise Adams, Annette Scipio, and Jeff McIntosh for meeting with us today. In 1913, 22 extraordinary, intelligent collegiate women had the forethought and wisdom and founded Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. With the vision of sisterhood, scholarship, and service, they wanted to promote academic excellence and provide assistance to those in need. Just 2 months after our organization was established, our founders performed their first public act by participating in the Women's Suffrage March in Washington, D.C. Our chapter was chartered in 1939. Now, with the membership of over 200 phenomenal women, our chapter is committed to serving the Winston-Salem, Forsyth County community. We continue in our founders' footsteps in providing a voice to those in need, with the assistance of such helpful programs as Delta Days at the nation's capital, Delta Days at the United Nations, Delta Days at our state capitol, and of course locally, Delta Days at City Hall. We hope this will be a continued conversation with city elected officials and in the future, the greater community about how we can collectively have a positive impact on our community as we strive to have joy in our sisterhood, power in our voices, and service in our heart. Again, thank you, and we are delighted to be a part of your meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, President Smith, and to all the members of Delta that are with us tonight, and to our two council members as well. We have item H2, please.
H2, resolution declaring May 2019 as Historic Preservation Month in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Whereas the city of Winston-Salem joins cities and counties across the United States in a nationwide celebration of Historic Preservation Month. And whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for economic development, tourism promotion, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for all communities across the nation, both urban and rural, and for all neighborhoods and citizens all over the city of Winston-Salem. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. And whereas Historic Preservation Month is co-sponsored by the Forsyth County Historic Resources Commission, Preservation Forsyth, and other local preservation and neighborhood organizations throughout Forsyth County. And whereas these organizations encourage members of the community to participate in creative and fun events related to historic preservation as a way to celebrate Preservation Month 2019. And whereas there are over 30 events scheduled in Forsyth County for citizens to attend. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and city council of the city of Winston-Salem do hereby declare the month of May 2019 as Historic Preservation Month and call upon the people of Winston-Salem to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance. Be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the minutes of the City Council and that a copy be furnished to the Forsyth County Historic Resources Commission.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. And we have with us tonight Ms. Carol Owens, who is with Preservation Forsyth, to accept the resolution there. And Mr. McIntosh is going to present that for us.
Larson, would you like to join with this?
Councilmember Larson.
Carol, thank you for all the work that you and your organization does. We have a lot of people in the community to whom history is very important, city council members, also our HRC staff, but just lots of individuals who do tremendous work every year. And we really appreciate what your organization does to just raise people's awareness, to have fun events, and now to actually be doing some preservation work, which is really wonderful. So thank you for what you do. Did you want to say any words?
I'll just say thank you for your support of preservation. And May is a big month for us and all the historical societies and preservation groups in the county come together to present programs, activities, tours. I forgot to bring it. I hope you got a list of activities in your package, but if not, preservationmonth.org lists everything, and y'all come join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Owens. Item H3, please.
H3, resolution honoring Arnold G. King for his service as a member of the City County Planning Board. Whereas the City Council of the City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and the Board of Commissioners of Forsyth County, North Carolina, appointed Arnold G. King to serve on the City County Planning Board. And whereas Mr. King served the citizens of Forsyth County and the City of Winston-Salem as a member of the City County Planning Board from February 2000 to April 2019, and as chairman from July 2003 to April 2019. And whereas Mr. King's 19 years of service to the City County Planning Board makes him the longest-serving member of all time, and his nearly 16 years as chairman makes him the second longest-serving chair in the history of the City County Planning Board. And whereas Mr. King maintained an astounding record of perfect attendance during his service to the City County Planning Board, attending 420 public hearings and work sessions without a single absence. And whereas Mr. King provided guidance and input throughout the development of the Legacy Comprehensive Plan in 2001 and the award-winning Legacy 2030 update in 2012 and 2013. And whereas Mr. King oversaw the creation of the first countywide series of small area plans that offer guidance for future land use decisions within Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. And whereas Mr. King has provided thoughtful consideration on over 1,500 zoning cases, 229 UDO text amendments, and over 800 combined preliminary subdivisions and planning board review site plans during his 19 years of service. And whereas Mr. King has devoted an extraordinary amount of time, dedication, and commitment to furthering the mission of the City County Planning Board. And whereas Mr. King's faithful service to the City County Planning Board has earned him the respect of his fellow board members, city and county staff members, elected officials, community leaders, the development community, and citizens alike. And whereas Mr. King has worked in a professional, respectful, and diplomatic manner with his colleagues on the City County Planning Board in debating planning-related issues to find a common ground in order to enhance the lives of Forsyth County residents. And whereas Mr. King's service to the Forsyth County Planning Board is one of many examples of volunteer service to the community for which he has received numerous honors, awards, and recognitions. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and City Council of the City of Winston-Salem do hereby honor and recognize Arnold G. King for his exemplary record of volunteer service to the community through his membership on the City County Planning Board. In recognition of his contributions to Winston-Salem and Forsyth County, the Mayor and City Council hereby direct the naming of the public meeting room within the Bryce A. Stewart Building in honor of Arnold G. King.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion second. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye and vote yes. All those opposed, vote no. And that's unanimous. And Mr. King, as I understand it, Mr. King will not be here tonight, but there'll be an event later on. We'll recognize him in a more public fashion there. And I know the City Council joins me in expressing our sincere appreciation to Arnold for his hard work over the many, many years there. Well, 340 public hearings and meetings and so on there? 420? That's a lot. Thank you all very much. We'll now go to the regular agenda of the City Council. It's comprised of the following items. We have 7 rezoning petitions. There's an item renewing the Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity. There's an item regarding the North Carolina League of Municipalities 2019 conference. There's an item related to an easement, and 3 items related to appointments and reappointments to boards and commissions. The zoning petitions are listed as public hearings, and when these public hearings are called, persons in the council chamber will be given an opportunity to speak. If there is opposition to the zoning petitions, the proponents and the opponents will be given 15 minutes each for presentation and 3 minutes for rebuttal. If no one wishes to speak, the public hearings will be closed and the City Council will consider the item. We're televising this meeting live tonight on TV 13, and it will be replayed tomorrow at 9 a.m. and again Wednesday at 9 p.m. Of course, copies of our agendas as well as previous meeting videos are always available online, and just click on the Watch Meetings Online option. May we have item Z1, please?
Z1, public hearing on zoning petition of Capital Bank National Association from HBS to HBL. Property is located on the north side of Country Club Road across from Southwind Drive, located in the West Ward. Planning Board recommends approval of petition.
Is there anyone in the council chamber who's opposed to this rezoning? I know the proponent is here if there's any questions. Seeing no one, I'll go ahead and declare the public hearing closed and recognize Councilmember Clark.
If the staff could give about a 2-minute, and particularly if you have a picture of what it currently looks like, that would be informative to the council.
King? Great.
I'll start with the location map. Again, this is on the north side of Country Club Road, kind of the bottom of the hill there, about halfway between Jonestown and Peace Haven. You can see the site there zoned highway business special use currently. There's the overhead aerial showing the property outlined in yellow. It's got one existing building currently on it in the, I guess, the far western corner of the site. The rest of it is undeveloped. There's the area plan recommendation, which calls for commercial for the site. And this is a picture of, this is on Country Club Road looking into the subject property, and that one building at the very far corner is the one you saw in that previous image. The rest of it is pretty much undeveloped. This is from the subject property side of Country Club Road looking across. And another image looking across at the commercial development that's out there. As I mentioned, the commercial use that's requested is compatible with the surrounding properties. It will allow for the reuse of commercial property along the growth corridor, and it's consistent with the recommendations of Legacy and the area plan. This did go to Planning Board on April 11th. There was no opposition present, and the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval of this request.
Any questions, Mr. King? Thank you, Mr. King. Recognize Mr. Clark for a motion.
I move for approval of 1, the statement of consistency for approval of this item, and 2, W-3402.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Councilman Clark. Item Z2.
C2, public hearing on zoning petition of Grand at Union Cross LLC from RM12S to RM18S. Property is located on the south side of Solomon Drive and north side of Pecan Lane, west of Union Cross Road. Located in the East Ward, Planning Board recommends approval of petition.
Is there anyone in the council chamber who is opposed to this rezoning? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and I'll recognize Councilmember Scipio.
This is the development of a new apartment complex, and I move for approval of the statement of consistency for approval of this item and to W-3404.
Second.
Is there a second? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you, Councilmember Scipio. Item Z3.
C3, public hearing on zoning petition of Sandra Donaldson and Carly Sisiloff from RS9 to RM12S. Property is located on the south side of Kester Mill Road, west of Tadon Park Drive, located in the southwest ward. Planning Board recommends approval of petition.
Is there anyone in the council chamber who is opposed to this rezoning? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and I'll recognize Councilmember Bessie.
Thank you. If we could have just a brief report on what this involves.
Mr. King?
Yep. I'll start with the location map on this one as well. You can see the subject property there in yellow. It's a little bit under 5 acres in size, and it's on the south side of Kester Mill Road. This is just west of Jonestown, south of 421. It adjoins to the east the Tatton Park development, which contains a mixture of housing types there. To the south, you've got some single-family homes zoned RS9. To the north, you've got a mixture of zonings there, with the quarry being the blue portion that you see there in general industrial zoning. And this is the aerial image showing the development pattern within the area. This is the image from the Southwest Suburban Area Plan Update, which does recommend intermediate density residential for the site up to 18 units per acre. That's what that kind of brownish color depicts. Some images from on site. This is on Kester Mill Road looking into the subject property. This is from the same vantage point. This is looking west on Kester Mill Road. And then from the same vantage point, this is looking east back towards Jonestown Road would be in the background of this. And those units you see there, the 3-story buildings, are part of Tatton Park. This is the site plan submitted with this request. It's got one access point onto Kester Mill Road that comes in. It does propose 2 3-story buildings located along the eastern edge of the site right there. Parking would be in front of the buildings, and then stormwater would be collected down at the bottom of the site where it's in close proximity to the creek in that area. These are the elevations that have been submitted with this request. Again, 3-story buildings, as I mentioned earlier. And just in summary, the area plan recommends intermediate density residential for this parcel. The site is adjacent to other multifamily zoned property, and the buildings are located along the eastern portion of the property in close proximity to those buildings of the same size and scale. This did go to planning board at their April meeting. There was no opposition present, and the planning board unanimously recommended approval of this request.
Any questions, Mr. King?
Mr.
Thank
King,
Go ahead, please. Go ahead, Mr. President.
would you please put the site plan back up on the screen? Thank you. Just leave that.
Mr. Bessie, please.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, this is an appropriate use for this site. It's adjacent to dense condo development to the east. It's well planned. It's on a bit of an unusually shaped site, but it's not a large one. It's less than 5 total acres. I've heard no opposition contacting me. I did go out and take a look at the site, and it appears to me that the principal existing value of the undeveloped property is for the wooded area. If you look at that site plan, you'll see that along the bottom of the site, you do have a creek crossing. You've got stream buffers. You've got a utility easement crossing, and you've got a tree save area indicated south of the stream. In addition, the area that shows now as the future site of the stormwater pond is also wooded in sort of dense, mature trees. And on balance, it seemed to me that there's more value in retaining as many trees on that part of the site as possible. I contacted staff members with Public Works, and I contacted the petitioner, the developer, and discussed the possibility of looking for alternative stormwater compliance methods, and if they could be found, authorizing that to be done by staff change approval rather than having to come back through this. It's a permissive suggestion, and if that is found and it's agreeable to the developer and staff says we can check off on this, then what's now shown as the stormwater pond area would go as additional tree save area. I drafted an amendment to condition A under prior to issuance of grading permits that would do this. Checked with both the petitioner representative and with staff. They're okay with it. I'll read the proposed change, and then if we could get Mr. Richard Angino, who is here as one of the developer partners, to come and just state for the record that they're okay with it. I'll move the amended approval of the amended petition. The language that essentially puts down what I just said that would be added to the end of the first condition is, if an engineered stormwater management plan is required under the site plan is approved, developer may work with the Public Works Department to make modifications that would either eliminate the need for an engineered plan, as by reducing total impervious surface footprint, or by alternative methods other than a detention pond. Substitution of pervious surfaces for parking areas may be among the options considered. If any combination of such approaches can be used to eliminate the need for the detention pond, then modification of the site plan to do so can be approved by staff change, with the area now shown as a detention pond being designated instead as additional tree save area. And Mr. Angino, if you could confirm that that's okay with y'all.
Yes, if you would give your name and address for the record, please, sir.
This is Richard Angino, 463 Carolina Circle, Winston-Salem. We are fine with this. I think the only thing, if I can bring up one item here, is the adding pervious parking lots. We're not allowed to do it under the program.
All right, well, I guess
So
that's not a...
if we could strike that one sentence. Otherwise, yes, we're more than willing to work with everyone related to this.
All right.
Okay.
All right, with that one change, then you accept those conditions?
Yes, I
Okay,
will.
very good. Thank you.
With that change, otherwise, with the amendment as read, I move for approval of 1, the statement of consistency for approval of this item, and 2, W3405.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that's unanimous. Thank you, Councilmember Bessie.
Thank you.
Item Z4.
Z4, public hearing on zoning petition of Forsyth County from CIS to CI. Property is located on the northeast corner of First Street and Church Street, located in the East Ward. Planning Board recommends approval of petition.
Is there anyone in the council chamber who is opposed to this rezoning? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed and recognize Councilmember Scipio.
Yes. Mr. King, would you tell us about this particular
Mr. King?
petition, since it affects the entire city?
Yes, absolutely. Here's a location map showing the subject property in yellow. It's a little over 3 acres in size. Everybody should be very familiar with this site. It's right next door to where we're at right now. It's currently zoned central industrial special use, and this request would eliminate the special use restriction and just take it back to just CI general use zoning. There you can see the existing parking deck and the 2 surface lots that are currently in place. That's an image from the front door of the Stewart building looking into one of the surface lots with the parking structure in the background. And this is an image from the Forsyth County Government Center looking at the other surface lot in the backside of the existing parking deck. The site's already zoned CIS, as I mentioned. This would take it back to CI, which is the same zoning on surrounding properties. It does promote mixed use and pedestrian-oriented form, and it does remove the special use designation that's currently on the site and allows for greater flexibility. This did go to Planning Board at their April meeting. There was no opposition present, and the board voted unanimously to recommend approval of this request.
Any questions for Mr. King? Councilmember McIntosh.
This is not in the Winston Overlay District?
Correct.
And I'm assuming that they're going to be squeezing every square inch out of this, so it'll effectively be pulled up to the sidewalk lines, and so more or less it's going to conform to that, even though it's not in the overlay. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Councilmember Clark.
Isn't this where the county plans to put the parking deck for the new Hall of Justice?
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
We're going to have a role in that too.
Which we will have 1/3 interest in.
Right. Councilmember Scipio.
I move for approval of the statement of consistency for approval of this item and W3406.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes, and anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you, Councilmember Scipio. Item Z5.
Z5, public hearing on zoning petition of WPDA Incorporated from GO and GI to GBL. Property is located on the north side of Reynolds Boulevard, west of Indiana Avenue, located in the North Ward. Planning Board recommends approval of petition.
Is there anyone in the council chamber who is opposed to this rezoning? I know the petitioners are here. If there's any questions. Seeing no one, I declare the public hearing closed. I'll recognize Councilmember Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. King, could we have a short presentation, please?
Mr. King? Absolutely.
This is basically the eastern edge of Whitaker Park. You can see the subject property there in yellow, almost 20 acres in size. A very small portion of the corner is currently zoned for general office. The balance of that site is zoned for general industrial, as much of Whitaker Park. This request would trade those zonings in for general business limited use for a mixture of commercial, actually some multifamily and some industrial uses in there as well. You can see this is the subject property outlined in yellow with the one existing manufacturing building still there close to Reynolds Boulevard. This is the area plan, the North Suburban Area Plan, which does recommend industrial use for the site. And image on Reynolds Boulevard looking towards the subject property. And this is on Reynolds Boulevard of the existing building I showed you, looking back west. Subject property is to the right. And this is on the back side where the railroad and Indiana Avenue border the subject property. This request would allow the repurposing of existing buildings and redevelopment of this area in Whitaker Park. We do have a preliminary subdivision that was approved by Planning Board that lays out the design for this, which does consolidate access and make for efficient use of that land. And the request represents a relatively small portion of the Whitaker Park campus. So, again, 20 acres out of the 100 plus that are there. This did go to Planning Board at their April 11th meeting. There was no opposition present, and the board voted 6-1 to recommend approval of this request.
Any questions for Mr. King? Thank you, Mr. King. Councilmember Adams?
Thank you, Mayor. I move for approval of 1, the statement of consistency for approval of this item, and 2, W3407.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion? None. All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Adams. All right, item Z6.
Z6, public hearing on zoning petition of Greater Tabernacle Worship Center from LI to LBS. Property is located on the northeast corner of Old Walkertown Road and Motor Road, located in the Northeast Ward. Planning Board recommends approval of petition.
We will have a public hearing on this one for the proponents. Mr. Mike Fox, please. You have 15 minutes for your presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Mike Fox. I'm an attorney with an address of 100 North Green Street in Greensboro, North Carolina. It's a pleasure to be here before your board and with my part board colleague, Mr. Bessie there. We've had a great experience in terms of this project, and this is a project that no doubt your entire council is very familiar with, because you've worked in this particular area for development, and there's been a history there with a project with the church, and some of the church members are here to speak favorably as well. We're coming in to provide really the first business, commercial, retail part of the development, and we've had a great experience working with the staff. We are in agreement with all of the conditions in which they've recommended, with one exception, which I'd like to take just a minute to walk through, if I could. I've got a handout. How should I best convey that to
Got
you?
Mr. King there. He'll get them around to us.
Got one for you too, Aaron. The one recommendation that we don't feel is practical in this case from the staff is the recommendation on cross-access between our parcel and the adjoining church parcel. Normally, a cross-access can be a very useful transportation planning tool, so we're not against those in principle, but it all depends on a particular site and how it works. Just to orient you briefly, you can see Old Walkertown Road there, and then Motor Road. Our development is the one in the corner, and pursuant to the city's request and the staff's request, we have pushed the building up to the front of Old Walkertown Road and really created a pedestrian-friendly access there at that corner, which we think is good for the development. We approve that, and we're happy to cooperate with that. We've also worked with the city staff to move the access, which is off Motor Road, further back from the intersection. We're glad to do that, and there's an agenda item on your agenda a little later approving that change in access, because you were previously kind enough to grant an initial access, which we're willing to make that work as well. If you see how the rest of our site that develops, so we've got a stormwater detention facility on the back of the site, and since our store is pushed up to the front of the site, that really leaves a limited area for our parking. And the effect, if we were to have to grant the cross-access easement there, which would be on the far right side of the property line, which Daniel's indicating right there, that in essence creates a roadway through our parking lot, which is a concern for our corporate safety folks in terms of people walking back and forth with their car and having. It's one thing to have traffic coming into your parking lot and looking to park, but just traffic coming through, that's an additional safety concern. There's also a limited ability of where to put our refuse dumpsters, since we don't want to put them up on the front, because we worked really hard to make that look great and make it pedestrian friendly, and that's about the only other place for it, given how the stormwater detention pond is there. There's also potential impacts on the church property next door. You can see where we've highlighted it limits the depth for the building on the adjoining track. If the access easement goes through there, then they'll be looking at the same constraints that we are. So we think a better solution would be to push a proposed access easement just a little north of the property line, you still have good access into the rest of that property for future development. And we think that that provides flexibility to allow the church parcel to really develop as they would like, and it allows us to have the pedestrian-friendly, attractive building on the front of our parcel. So that would be our only request, would be to not require the cross-access easement. And with that, I'll let Daniel Almason speak for just a couple minutes about the background, and I think there are some, who's here from the church that wants to speak. Yeah, come on up if you will.
Good evening, board members. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Daniel Almazan with Terramore Development. I live at 306 Oak Brook Drive in Salisbury, North Carolina. Just to reiterate what Mike was talking about, one thing that this map kind of does, and it's not even pulled out far enough for you to see how large this whole track is. It's 115 acres. So when you put it in context of that, I think having this potential road, this connectivity between the city's parcel and the rest of the greater Tabernacle parcel gives a lot of flexibility in their long-term use and any other secondary uses that they may have. Instead of having the connectivity really pushed to this, whenever you think of how large the entire master plan is, having that connectivity in the rear will accomplish, I think, what staff wants, but without impacting our safety or the potential safety of the church parcel. We look forward to working with all of the members. We really took pride in this project. It's going to be a beautiful store, and appreciate all the help that we've had from staff and members of the council. Thank you so much.
Great evening. My name is Elder Christian Daney. I reside at 1620 Cherry Blossom Lane, 103, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, 27127. I stand on the behalf of Greater Tabernacle Worship Center. Some of our board members are here. Some of our ministers are here, and some of our parishioners are here. We are excited about the process. We have been in this process for quite some time, and we are ready to move forward. We're ready not only to move forward, but we're ready to actually begin our phase 2 of our building, and we're ready to do all that you all are requiring for us to do as far as this particular endpoint and this staple in our building process is concerned, and we're ready to comply and do all that's necessary. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That's all we have, Mr. Mayor. We'd be happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Questions, Mr. Fox or others? Councilmember McIntosh?
The revised site plan that we got with our packet and this have just some differences, and I'm wondering which one is the one that's being submitted.
I'm looking at the packet right here.
So I'll mention a little bit to that effect, Councilmember McIntosh. The largest change is the location of the access point onto Motor Road.
Right.
And so if you remember in that image I showed you earlier where the yellow portion is, that's the only portion that's up tonight for consideration for rezoning. The balance where that access easement comes through the city's property is zoned LI. It doesn't need any rezoning, so any changes to the access point where it connects to Motor Road don't have to come back. If this is approved, they would not have to come back to council. Those are allowed to happen in that existing LI zoning.
Right, but again, the diagrams are different. Is the one that's on our iPads the more accurate?
I think the one that you had was, okay, that one's more accurate in terms of the
From a functional standpoint, I don't think there's a big difference. I'm just wondering if there's
it's just the access
which one is
where it was pushed back to the intersection.
That's the only change I noticed.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other question? Sophia, I had a question.
Mr. King, maybe you can answer this. Why is it necessary to have an access point for the store that would go to the rear of the church property from Motor Road when there seems to be like an access point that would come off of Mount Pleasant Road for the church and the remainder of its property?
Yep. So I'll speak to that a little bit. That was an issue that staff had recommended in the event that a church was not developed there. If there were another commercial or non-residential user there, again, thinking back to that that big area in pink that I showed you that was recommended for mixed use. In the event the church didn't happen there, we would have it set up for cross access. And so that's where that recommendation came from, and that's probably what you saw some of in the discussion by the planning board.
Finish, Councilmember Cynthia.
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Adams.
Yes, thank you. Gentlemen and owners of the property, I have nothing personal against what you're trying to do, but my concern is, and my question is, why the proximity so close of Dollar General stores when you have one on Carver Road that you could walk, well, 311 Carver Road, Walkertown. You could literally walk to the store that you're getting ready to put on another corner. I mean, I know that you're trying to service your customer, your brand, but maybe I missed something. I thought a while back, I think I voted on some zoning changes for this property, but I was hoping for it to be a grocery store or a drugstore or something of that nature. Again, it's nothing against your brand. It's just that as an African American in the urban core of Winston, it concerns me that and I appreciate what you're doing, but it concerns me that we don't really get the top tier services of stores like other areas of our community. Again, the question is, I know CVS's and things like that kind of go near each other, but there's always others, Walgreens, Walmart, Lowe's, Food Lion. Why would you put another Dollar General on a main corner of Motor Road and, what is that, Walkertown? Old Walkertown, that I can get on Motor Road, cross over Walkertown, get on Carver Road, and be down at your next store in a matter of a couple of minutes? What would be driving that?
A couple things. Just broadly, it's actually more common in a number of retail industries than you might think. You will see fast foods clustered. I've had clients tell me that Bojangles always likes to be across the street from Chick-fil-A, so that if the line's long, and they want chicken, they'll go to Bojangles. So there's some commonality there, and in this particular instance, we think that this store is a really nice upgrade from what you traditionally see in stores. This is the facade. We've got conditions on how it looks. We've pushed it up to the street. It's a new store. We're very proud of the new style of our stores. We think they're a credit to whatever neighborhood they're in. You'll be proud to have one. They're well kept up. They're not run down at all. And in general, zoning talks about uses as opposed to particular stores. And so we just happen to be a Dollar General, but your zoning approval, could have approved a grocery store or a drugstore. It would have to be on the same scale, but that's why zonings don't always get into particular store brands and what they are. And so we would encourage you to look at the good of the area, and we feel like that this is a good use and that it will benefit that neighborhood. Daniel can talk a little more specifically about the business case for why they put them within a certain distance of each other. I do know, there is a lot of science involved in that in terms of the customers, and this is a significant investment for them. They would not make that if they didn't feel like it was going to be successful, and they've got a good track record.
Just real quickly, that question comes up quite a bit because it's not unusual that you can see stores fairly close to one another. Most of the time it has to do with traffic patterns. And in this case, because there's still density in terms of the number of households, whenever they separate out market areas and they realize that they've got, like in this case, there's more traffic going down Old Walkertown Road and then going north up Motor Road, they see that as an opportunity so that those potential clients don't have to go down Carver Road. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's about 2 miles. And you're right, if somebody wanted to walk it, they absolutely could. But what they're trying to do is trying to do it's convenience. And in their case, whenever they separate the traffic counts and the household, they realize that it's a pocket that they would designate an entire store for. So I know it's we represent the developer and we build the stores for them, but they're the ones who have approved the location and would love to build the store.
Councilman Larson, have a question?
I actually have two questions. One very quick technical one. The alternate road system that you're showing on this handout you just gave us, was that presented to staff or the planning board in your review process? And if not, why not?
We did not have this particular drawing at the planning board stage, but we did talk about that as an option, as that was a more desirable option, was to push it a little further north. We just hadn't had the opportunity to develop this drawing in time for the planning board.
Well, you must have been thinking about this for a while, but you've not reviewed. Staff has not had a chance to review this, nor was it presented as part of your presentation of the planning board. Is that? Could I ask?
Yeah, I'll speak to that, Councilmember Larson. It was definitely an issue that was discussed, and we had some review of this right before the planning board meeting. Staff is comfortable where the location of that driveway is going because, again, along Motor Road, it's pushing that driveway further away from the intersection, which is a good thing. And so staff is supportive of where that alternative location for the driveway on Motor Road is proposed at.
Okay, so staff is fine with that.
Correct.
Second question, and I'm sorry if this gets a little lengthy. Can somebody review for me the city's relationship to this parcel of land and how it's evolved over time in the sense of our relationship to the tabernacle and this particular parcel which we're now examining?
I know I'm the council person of the area.
Maybe
I need to review you.
Thank you.
This piece of property sat vacant for a long time. In fact, we did not have Motor Road. We tried to get, and people came to us to do something on it. We had not been able to do anything. Those who came, they couldn't follow through. When Tabernacle came to us, they had more of a concrete plan of what they wanted to do with this particular piece of property. And I want you to know that the church members, and of course Apostle McLeod passed, but she was the leader at that church, and they have worked very hard in wanting to see something happen. What I'm disappointed with as I sit here of the presentation about how that building is going to look, because I said we will not allow anything that will look second class up there, that it will not be the usual dollar store that you have seen. And I don't know if you have any of the plans to show how they need to see that, Mayor, of how this building will look. Because there's going to be some more talk in here that's going to show how the one that on New Walkertown is looking. And when you get to that one, they tricked me with that one. I was not in favor of that one. It was, they already had, we came before our zoning people, our planning people, and we did not want that building there. But for some reason, they had purchased a little building, and when they were able to put the building there without us coming back. So with this one, I said, you may have outsmarted the first time, but you will not outsmart again when it comes to how it ought to look and what's acceptable.
So you're looking for some renderings or sites?
And I know that was a different developer. That wasn't us.
Okay.
It may be the same corporate entity, but it's not us. This is the first one we've done here. And we do have a rendering that I think Aaron can pull up. Yeah, and we're pleased to do that. I mean, we think that
that'll come up in your report, Mr. King. Could we,
It will, and I think
hold on that.
Yeah.
that's the image.
We'll wait on that when it
Yeah.
comes up there. There it is.
But we apologize for not highlighting that as we should have.
All right.
That's an excellent point.
Any other questions for Mr. Fox? All right, thank you, Mr. Fox. Anyone else for your side?
No, thank
Okay.
you.
All right, we'll now go to the opposition. Opposition would have 15 minutes as well. First person signed up is James Combs. James Combs. He's not here. Okay, Ms. Gardenia Henley, please.
My name is Gardenia Henley, and I live at 4920 Old Walkertown Road. Since Mr. Combs is not here, he is in opposition. Do I get his minutes as well?
You got 50 minutes total.
Gotcha. For the record, I gave everyone a package, and I regret that it came so late in the day, but it's more pictures than narrative. I received it late, but I am familiar with the context. And also for the record, at the last page, there are 9 community members who are in opposition of having a Dollar General at this location. I don't know if you had time to read the narrative, but basically what it says is that we all are in opposition to having a Dollar General in this location. We live here. Speaking for myself, I personally live in this neighborhood. I know what the Dollar Generals look like. I know what they are. I know how developers will sometimes say one thing. I'm not talking about the developers now, but I'm saying what can possibly happen. You say one thing and then it becomes another. Like here, I'm looking at the Dollar General. It's not on the board there, but it's at this city county planning board. I've never seen a Dollar General that looks this nice, not in our neighborhood. And that concerns me, and that's very, very discerning. And I'm just going to have to be straight up front, you know, and come at you all very straight. When you talk about Dollar Generals in a neighborhood, it brings down the property value. I've been at several meetings with the developer and the officials representing Dollar General and the people who are who want to have it built. The people who want to have this built doesn't live in the neighborhood. They don't live in our neighborhoods. So it's easy to come out and say, well, because you need the money, to come out and say, well, let's just go ahead and put the Dollar General there. They got money. They'll give it to us quick. They'll do what they need to do. We get the money, and we can move on. Whereas Councilmember Burke said that land has been vacant for a long time. Decisions could have been made to put something there that better represent the neighborhood. Dollar General doesn't represent our neighborhood. The people in our neighborhood probably aren't going to shop there. Now I want to get to some of the meat and potatoes. I'm really used to 3 minutes, so this 15 minutes feels pretty good.
You don't have to take it off.
What was that, Mayor?
You don't have to take it off.
So a lot of times they say, well, most of the time they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, I went out and I conducted my investigation, and when you look at these pictures, they're not numbered, but there's some dates on them and there are some times. And you see that trash at some, have all of you all had a chance to at least flip through and look at the pictures?
I have.
You see the trash there? And this is mostly for, there's $3 Generals in the immediate neighborhood, and I can walk to all 3 of them. So why? And I haven't heard that question adequately answered. Why do we need another Dollar General in this area? It's almost like a Dollar General monopoly. Somebody's making money off of this at our expense, and that's unfair to us. And I'm asking you as council members to to really revisit this. I've heard one council member ask a really good question, Ms. Adams, thank you. But I didn't hear an answer to your question. I really didn't. And so I would like to know, how does this, I'm going to answer the question because I don't want anyone to tell me, how does this support economic development in our neighborhood? It doesn't. As I said, Dollar Generals normally bring down the property values in the neighborhood, and we're fighting hard. I'm fighting hard to keep my property value up and to help the other neighbors in the neighborhood keep their property values up. You know, it's a thing where normally in a neighborhood, if someone does something really nice, I do Christmas lights every year. Not that I'm throwing something out there, but I really do. And I'm told it's, you know, Tanglewood, my area, okay. It's pretty nice. You know, I'm patting myself on the back, and I've seen other neighbors start to do the same thing because it encourages them. And I've done other things in the neighborhood, and it encourages them to do more. How is a Dollar General going to encourage us to do more? It won't. Now, when you look at these pictures weren't during work hours. They were after work hours. And it was on more than one day. And I still have other pictures that I have not shown to the council because I am conducting an investigation of all the Dollar Generals and Winston-Salem. And I have a huge problem that I won't get into tonight, but there's problems here. And then I heard someone say, well, that was another developer who tricked Councilmember Burke. Well, it could be another developer, but it's still, Dollar General is still at the top of the line and making approvals on whatever, okay? And I would hope that at some point your message got to Dollar General, to the powers that be at Dollar General. Okay, so, and I'm talking about the trash. Some of the pictures don't really show how bad it looks because I couldn't blow it up big enough. But there's trash all in the parking lots. There's the carts all in the parking lots after hours, and people are still loading up the trash in the cans because they're there for them. You know, I think they come from another location and just load the trash up for whatever reason. And then, so okay, I looked outside, and then when I walked in, now I'm going to say this is the most egregious and the worst photos, I say worst, but the photos that look more of a hot mess than the others are on Carver School Road, the last one that was built. And so I went in and I looked and I walked up and down the aisles and I said, oh, some of the aisles you can't even get up and down without pushing something out the way. And this isn't all of the pictures, but there's stuff all on the floors. There's cans of soda that's burst open. That's everywhere. And I'm trying to go through these pictures and make sure I cover everything. And there's carts. No one's stocking or restocking the shelves. No one's moving things out the way for safety reasons so that when their customers can come in, they can have an enjoyable experience without stepping over things or whatever. Now, how do I know this? It's because I saw it with my own eyes, and I also talked to a lot of the customers who told me, for the record, that they've been complaining about it, but nothing happens. That's not good. And who can assure me, and it's a rhetorical question, and I'm going to answer it for all the council members, that the one that's being proposed in my neighborhood, a few houses up from me, won't look like this. All the rest of them do. So why should they all of a sudden make this one look like Saks Fifth Avenue or Bloomingdale's? They won't. They're not fooling me. And I hope that they're not fooling you. They need to put this Dollar General, if that's what they want, like I've heard. I don't have anything personal against Dollar General. There's people who really need to shop there. I get it. I understand that. but don't put it in a thriving neighborhood and on a corner right near the street. It almost, when I looked at the photo, it almost reminds me of the Family Dollar. We're not talking about Family Dollar. That's almost in the street in Upper Station. That's the most awkward location for a store, and now it's being proposed at Dollar General do pretty much the same thing. Okay, now, I talked to some staff who work for Dollar General, and they told me that there are times when they come to the store, Carver School Road, and they can't get in, and they didn't know that the store was closed. Where I come from, we call that poor management on Dollar General's part. And then they said that, you know, they told me that the management is bad. I don't work at Dollar General, so I got this information from them. And they were saying that management is bad. And then I asked about the trash. I said, how come it's trash and the aisles are looking this way? And they said, well, nobody has told us that we need to move it. Or there's nobody here to do that, or whatever the case may be. I got a lot of different answers. So it's poorly managed. The other Dollar Generals are poorly managed. This one is probably the worst on Carver School Road. We already have one poorly managed Dollar General right near the other one that's being proposed. So why would we put another one there? They failed. They get an F in our neighborhood for not properly managing their Dollar Generals. Council members, don't let them, Mayor, don't let them just throw something up in our neighborhood because, you know, they need the profits. They can make the profits in a lot of different locations in Winston-Salem. I can show them that. And I am very compassionate to the church. You know, perhaps they need the money. But, you know, so do a lot of other people. You know, I'd like to have some of it too. But the issue is, you know, do we put something bad to make good? What I've always understood about economic development is it's put into a community to cause that community to thrive economically. You know, and sometimes socially and in other ways. But this is not what Dollar General is going to do for our community. It's not economic development. And then, how am I on time?
2.5 minutes.
Oh. And so then the last page, we've got business owners who work in this area, who have businesses in this area, and it's going to negatively affect them. The same things that Dollar General offer, these business owners offer the same thing. So why do we need it? And here's another question, rhetorical question. We don't. Why do we need a Dollar General that's failing at management, that's making our communities, the buildings are blight, you know, they look horrible, outside and inside, trash everywhere. So these businesses are concerned that big Dollar General to them is like a Walmart. It'll take them out of business. And we like these businesses. They're okay with us. They know the community. They know what they're doing. They keep their areas clean. Okay, so it will also affect these businesses because financially, if Dollar General comes in for a little while, it's going to affect them. But I would say that it will only last for probably a year or so because it's going to go down here just like the other ones. We have no reason to believe that Dollar General is going to be any different from what we have already. But we don't need it. So, and I also made a couple of notes where someone said that Dollar General was not successful. Well, it wasn't successful on Carver Road, but I'm hearing that, oh, you know, they're very successful in this and this. Well, not in our neighborhood. And I'm only concerned about our neighborhoods right now. But at the larger picture, I'm concerned about all of Winston-Salem. in Dollar General not keeping up their stores and just bringing anything into our neighborhoods. And I have to call a spade, and it's actually happening in the African American neighborhoods predominantly. We're better than that. We don't always want Dollar Generals put into our neighborhoods and not into the other neighborhoods, especially when there's space, when there's land to do that.
Finley, your time is up.
Thank you, Mayor,
Thank
for
you,
telling
ma'am.
me about my time. Thank you, council members, for attentively listening to me. And, I want to close by saying that we hope that you all will support the community, support us, because we've supported you
Thank you, Ms. Henley.
for many years.
Thank you very
And
much.
we hope that you vote no.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, the proponents, Mr. Fox, you would have 3 minutes for rebuttal if you would like it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple points. I would point out to the council that the rendering, the site plan that Mayor Pro Tem Burke referenced earlier, we are committed to build that. That's in the conditions. It's on page 7 of the staff report, and it says the proposed building plan shall be in substantial conformance with the submitted elevations shown on Exhibit A and verified by the planning staff. All rooftop HVAC equipment shall be screened from view from the adjacent streets, and also buildings shall be constructed in substantial conformance with the approved building elevations as verified by planning staff. We will stand behind that. This particular developer, they own these sites. They build them, own them. They have long-term leases to Dollar General. What the description you heard of the condition of other Dollar Generals are not what this developer, and it's not how they keep their sites. They don't get more business from Dollar General if they have poor sites, and so they maintain them. I would also just add too that Dollar Generals are in a lot of different neighborhoods. They're not concentrated in any particular neighborhoods. I grew up in Watauga County outside of Boone, and there's one within 500 yards of my parents' home and my family farm. In more rural areas, they're sort of serving the need that general stores used to serve, and a lot of these general stores have closed down. So they really are all over the place, and this one, we commit to you that it will be a benefit to your community if you approve it.
Thank you, Mr. Fox.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask
You have a question? Okay. Mr. Fox, you have a question, please?
Yes, ma'am.
just for clarity, did you say the developer runs the store?
No, the developer owns the store, and then they have a long-term lease with Dollar General. And Dollar General actually, Dollar General has the employees, but the developer is responsible for the condition, of the store. So, if they would be responsible if something broke and it needed to be fixed. So, they have the motivation to keep this store looking top notch.
And is the developer local?
They're based out of Thomasville, Georgia, and they've done a number. They probably have, how many would you say in North Carolina? 27 in North Carolina. There are more. They've done work with Dollar General for many years in the Georgia area, and only recently have Dollar General asked them to come develop in North Carolina and South Carolina because they deliver a better product.
Would this be the first one in Forsyth County? Because Dollar General has about 30 stores in Forsyth County.
Is this the first one for us in Forsyth? It is.
For this developer?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. All right, for the opposition, Ms. Henley, you would have 3 minutes for rebuttal if you would like to use that.
Okay, 3 minutes, that's what I'm used to. I still have not heard an answer to why do we need it at this location. I haven't heard an answer to that. And the developer is still sugarcoating what we have no proof, or we don't have any historical data, any historical photos, any up to date right now information or photos that says that Dollar General is not going to do the same thing that they've done in all the other locations. Now, I didn't go outside of my community because this is for the community that I live in. So I'm only talking about it, but I guarantee you, if I go to some of the areas, I would imagine there's one on Wartown Road, or somewhere over in that area, it would probably look just like this one, because that's who they are, and that's what they do. And I'm calling a spade, and not one developer in here today can dispute those pictures that I gave to you. Picture is worth 1,000 words, and once they build the building and they leave, like they're saying, we just build the building. We're not responsible for the management. But at some point, council members, perhaps you all are. Or the health department. You know, the health department needs to see some of this. So that's about all that I have to say. Do I have any more time left?
For a minute.
So, and also the developers, they're saying one thing, and actually I'm seeing another. I have seen another. You all have seen another with the package that I gave you. And I can say this. I guarantee you everyone on this committee has seen a Dollar General like what is portrayed in those photos at some point. If you haven't, then it's because you've never gone in there. You don't shop there, and perhaps some of you don't. But if you do, because I don't think they can clean up all of the Dollar Generals by tomorrow, you know, if you choose to go and look, it's just not going to happen. They don't have the staff. They don't have the staff. And one thing that I didn't say, oh, great, there's the time. One thing that I didn't say is that they don't have the staff to manage their stores. So their stores are not working during normal business hours. What does that tell you? That we've got a problem, and we will have a problem in our neighborhood. That's why we are in opposition to it. I am strongly in opposition to it. And I really hope that you council members, that the council members will
Thank you, Ms. Henley.
vote no.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you, Ms. Henley.
Thank
Yeah.
can I ask a question?
Yes, Ms. Henley,
Ms. Henley?
Ms. Henley, excuse me.
Ms. Henley?
Councilmember Bessie has a question.
Can you, hi, can you tell me if any of your photos are from the Dollar Generals on South Creek Parkway or on Walltown Street?
No. As I said, I only focused in on my neighborhood where I live. I'm familiar with that. I don't live over there. But I do feel that if I go over there, I'm going to find some of the same problems.
Thank you. Councilmember Burke, have a question?
Because that's Dollar General. That's who they are.
Before Ms. Henley sits down, I would like to say these pictures that you're talking about, they're exactly right in what you have given us. It's not that it has not been ignored. It has been given attention. It seems to me that the city tells us who complain about this that they can't do this and they can't do that. We have been in there, if you pull our records, over probably 100 times with the same problem. And our attorney tell us we need to know, and Ms. Henley does have a big, beautiful home. You keep everything nice inside and out.
Thank you.
But please tell us, attorney, why is it we cannot get any control over this?
Well, in terms of the matter being considered tonight, those pictures and the conditions that she's complaining about with respect to other Dollar Generals do not relate to the petition that's before you. So those cannot be considered. However, staff and I would certainly take those pictures and see what we can do to address those concerns under the existing codes that the city has.
Well, it seems with Mr. Johnny Taylor, the director of the operations for the city, he has not been able to get anything done. We've also sent our fire for safety. Nothing has been done. It was also complained about the parking lot where you can't even get out of there safe, and the way the state controlled that area in its own. Ms. Henley, you kept saying Carver School. You meant New Walkertown Road is where it's located.
right off of Carver School.
No, the Carver School is where the most egregious problems are with Dollar General. And if I mention Motor Road and Old Walkertown Road, then that was an error, but I don't remember
That's
doing
fine,
that.
but it is on New Walkertown Road. You go down Carver School Road.
Oh, I
make
know
a
where
right.
it is. That's why I'm here
That's fine,
complaining
but-
about
We'll
it.
get the address.
Okay.
Yes, Motor is on the corner of Old Walkertown Road and Motor Road.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Henley.
I'd like to say one thing since I was
Ma'am,
brought
your time
back
is up.
up.
I'm sorry, but thank you. Unless there's another question.
Oh, no, I don't have another
Thank you,
question.
Ms. Henley.
Just that the city of
All right, I'll declare the public hearing closed and ask Mr. King to give the report of the planning board, please.
Okay. All right, thank you. We'll start with the location map. I think everybody's generally familiar with where the property is. It's about 1.5 acres at the corner of Old Walkertown Road and Motor Road. You can see it in yellow on this image. It's currently zoned limited industrial. You can see the zoning pattern in the area. To the east, there's a church and some existing single-family homes zoned RS9. To the south, you've got Old Walkertown Road and the railroad tracks and some additional properties zoned RS9. As you head a little further to the west across Motor Road, you've got a mixture of industrial and commercial zonings and residential zonings in that area as well. An aerial image of the subject property shows it's currently undeveloped, as is the rest of the very large tracts owned by the church and the city in this area. This is an image from the Northeast Suburban Area Plan update, which you can see the subject property outlined there. It's in the pink area. That pink area denotes mixed use. And you can see there's a lot of additional acreage also shown in pink for that mixed use area as well. A few images on site. This is at the intersection of Motor Road and Old Walkertown Road. You'd be looking into the subject property. It would be kind of behind that truck on the opposite side of the street. This is from the same vantage point looking further east along Old Walkertown Road. The site would be to the left. And this is on Mount Pleasant Drive. This is a church that would be just east. Mount Pleasant Drive is a public road east of the subject property and a church that adjoins it there. This is the site plan that's been submitted with this request, and it's the one that's in your packets. And so you can see it's got the proposed Dollar General building, about 9,000 square feet in size, pulled up to Old Walkertown Road. One access point onto Motor Road, which is shown here. That's what was submitted to the planning board. Again, that was a concern of the board and staff to move that further north, and you've got an additional item on your agenda tonight that would take that into consideration. We're just kind of walking through the site plan very quickly. Again, one access point. Parking would be to the side and rear of the building. You would have your stormwater facility there on the north side of the parking lot. Coming around the east side of the building, there would be a landscape buffer that would be planted. As you come back along the Old Walkertown Road frontage, again, landscape plantings would be located there. There'd be a public sidewalk there. And then this parking lot, which is a focal point as you get to that very prominent intersection, we asked the developer to give some additional thought to that. And they did agree to include about a 3-foot tall brick knee wall with some additional landscape plantings to try to dress that up and hide the cars there. So that was a good design element that was included. The other issue that was already made reference to by Councilmember Scipio's question that was discussed at the planning board was the access going through the site from Motor Road to adjoin the church property to the east, on the eastern side of the site. As you've heard earlier in some of the comments made, concerns about the appearance and the building materials used in this request. This is the perspective drawing that was submitted by Dollar General with this request. And as Mr. Fox alluded to, we have a condition that would basically tie the developer to building this exact building that's in front of you. That's hardy board siding, that's the fiber cement siding, brick base right there. So this is the building that would have to be built should council choose to approve this request. These are the elevations, the drawings that have been submitted with this request, probably the two most prominent things to look at here. The second from the bottom, that's the elevation along Old Walkertown Road, that's the perspective that you just saw. And then the one on the very bottom, that'd be the left side, that'd be the view from Motor Road, again, the second most prominent view. In summary, this is consistent with the land use recommendation of the area plan, and it would provide convenience retail to the surrounding area. And there would be a hope that this would spark further redevelopment and reinvestment in this larger mixed-use area that was identified through the area plan process. This did go to the planning board at their April 11th meeting. We had 3 speakers in support and 1 in opposition. A lot of the same comments you heard today were raised there, the number of Dollar Generals in the area, impact on property values, and concerns about the amount of traffic on Old Walkertown Road. The Planning Board had a lot of discussion, you probably saw in your minutes, about the moving of the driveway on Motor Road and the cross access through the site. And they ultimately voted unanimously to recommend to council to approve the request, but to give consideration to moving that driveway further north on Motor Road and to think about having that cross access to the east. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Questions, Mr. King? Councilman Taylor?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Mr. King, I always sit carefully and listen before I ask questions. I find that when neighbors sit down with the development community, a lot of times we can work out some of the details. I draw your attention to Walltown, which was mentioned several times. It was a vacant lot. There were some neighbors who were not in favor. You had some neighbors who were. And then you had sort of the development community. So we sat down and we sort of rearranged how things might look. So instead of the tin look, we used bricks. They were not comfortable with the location of the trash bin, so we moved those around to where the community sort of felt comfortable after we all sat down and developed a compromise. So my question is, has there been any community effort, any meetings with the neighborhood to try to work out some of the problems? I know this is a fine church. I know these are fine people, and this is probably a fine development group, but has there been an effort?
Councilmember Taylor, so we do have a requirement in the UDO for a neighborhood outreach to take place, and there's a summary of that in your packet. And I would probably defer to the applicant to come up and speak to you in specifics about what they did with respect to neighborhood outreach, if you'd like to hear that.
I saw it said that it was on Amendment B, but I couldn't locate Amendment B. Okay. So I'd definitely like to hear from Mayor, if I'm in order.
Yes, I just spoke to the mayor to speak. They did have meetings, and I met with them. Also, I thought, I don't know if Ms. Henley ever met with them, but it was not just something that's fresh, never been heard of. It's been discussed. It's been discussed. The church has worked in a very hard way, meeting after meeting, looking at the area. So they have followed direction. And as the elected official, I have been kept well in meetings that I did not attend up. And I've been in communication with Mr. King about how and what we would expect when there were certain concerns that the developer had or the church had. I made sure that through Mr. DeCane, that he would make sure Mr. King understood what we felt needed to be done.
Thank you.
Okay. Just for Clark, got a question?
Yeah, just comments were made this lot's been vacant for a while. Has there ever been anything on this lot, or how long ago was it? How long has it been vacant?
I'm not aware of anything.
That's where Burke would know.
It's never been anything.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's just been nothing but trees up there.
We owned it for a long time. It's a right-of-way protection.
And remember when we had Old Walker Town Road, it wasn't Motor Road. When you came out Carver School Road, you looked at some trees.
Gotcha.
And then when we went in there with that state did that, that's when we got. And then we tried to start marketing it off. And it goes way back. The mayor can tell you. We've had many developers come.
New Macedonia.
Yeah, and they will back away from us. This will be the first if it happens.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Mr. Clarkson, have a question?
Yes, please. We're listing this under long-range plans as multi-use. This is a premier location on that parcel. It has the highest visibility anywhere, I think, on that whole parcel. I know that we've been waiting a long time for something to be developed here, and I know that the congregation is anxious to get on with monetizing some of this land that they're not able to use. I am concerned, and I will certainly yield to my colleagues on this one, but I am concerned that we're selling ourselves a little short here in what our aspirational aspects are in this main corridor that's servicing the area.
The question there, Mr. Larson?
Yes, the question is, do you feel this is in compliance with, that this is an anchor within the compliance of a multi-use development?
We think it's a component of a mixed-use development, and it's setting the stage. It certainly has the aspects of that, and that's one of the reasons why I think staff and planning board gave so much thought and consideration to where that access point is located on Motor Road, to make sure that if this does develop and there are future pieces of this mixed-use development that come into play, that we do set it up with good access that's located away from Old Walkertown Road so that it's safe for folks to get in and out. So yes, this is a single use, but we do feel it can be part of an overall mixed-use plan for in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. All right, no other questions. I'll call on Councilmember Burke if she's ready for a motion.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I have listened to what has been said, and I have heard some of the other elected officials speak about what they think or they may not think ought to be. I would say to you that if we had not tried, and it's not that we are selling ourselves short, we have tried very hard, and I felt that with this particular situation, that the developer would be consistent and would do what would be the right in putting the building there. That's why the expense that he's gone to get this done, I thought would be acceptable. It takes more than my vote. It's going to take 5 votes tonight for this to happen. When you talk about you could walk 2 or 3 minutes, but I wish you could be on Carver School Road and see how many people are walking from Lansing Drive down to New Walkertown Road. They walk down Carver School Road, they make a right into New Walkertown, and it's not too far where that dollar store is located. It's a disgrace that they have to do this, but they have nothing else to do. If any of you can get anyone to come over, we will be very grateful. We will be more than happy. But no one has stepped forward to come over. We've had failures with everybody who wanted to come. We want a grocery store. We want what we see. But I will say this, I would hope, if we get this evening, that the people in the neighborhood would monitor the store, and that the developer, even though he leases out or gets someone to do it, would be more conscious and understand what we're saying. So this evening, it's up to you. You will vote your way. But to see the folks walking in the rain, even when snow is being scraped up, trying to get to this particular store that Ms. Henley spoke about. It is sad that we don't have any better opportunities. We know what the situation is. So I'm not going to prolong this. So I want you to know that I move for approval of 1, the statement of consistency for approval of this item, and 2, W-3409.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Discussion?
I have a matter of clarity as to what the site plan that we're voting on, if we're amending the site plan.
Yes, Councilmember Larson, the site plan that's in your book is essentially, what you saw earlier is essentially a color version of that. The main key difference is the location of the driveway where it connects to Motor Road.
Exactly.
And that's not within the yellow portion of subject property that you're voting on tonight. That can be amended outside of this zoning action that's before the council tonight.
But there's a requirement to run the road through the middle of their site.
That would not be a requirement. It is not a requirement that was sent.
Under what we're voting on tonight, but we're also not approving the other road.
We'll deal with that later on as an item tonight.
No, that's
later on.
Separate item.
Yeah, right. All right. Yeah, Councilmember Taylor.
Mayor, with all due respect to Mayor Pro Temp, this is your ward, and I always yield to the council member when it comes to these sort of matters. But it was difficult for me to understand who was here actually and was not in favor of the rezoning. I know that Ms. Henley spoke, and you utilized the 15 minutes. So if I am in order, I'm just curious. I see a room full of people who are here for this, but is there anyone here who is opposed to the rezoning, other than Ms. Henley?
Thank you very much. All right, Councilmember Bessie had a question?
Yeah, I just actually a comment. I normally defer to the judgment of the council member representing the area on this kind of judgment call question, whether this is an appropriate use change, and I will do so in this case. In regard to the question of whether all Dollar Generals are mismanaged, my experience in going in stores on South Creek Parkway in Walltown would not support that conclusion. There are stores that are managed well, some that are managed poorly, and we ought to be aggressive about ensuring that our standards are followed.
All right, thank you. We do have a motion to second. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. No. Motion passes 6-2, and that's sufficient to pass this on first reading. All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Fox. All right, item Z7.
Z7, public hearing on zoning petition of the Commons of Forsyth County Incorporated from MUS and RS9 to GBS. Property is located on the west side of Old Greensboro Road at its intersection with US 158 and Reedsville Road, located in the Northeast Ward. Planning Board recommends approval of petition.
We will have a public hearing on this one as well. For the proponents, you would have 15 minutes. First person signed up is Dan Jewell. If each person would please state your name and address for the record, please.
Great. Help to the rescue. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Dan Jewell with Coulter Jewell Thames, 111 West Main Street in Durham. I'm here at the request of TROSA. We are landscape architects, planners, civil engineers, and private practice. We have been working with TROSA for over 20 years on their various facilities in Durham, and we have the pleasure of working with them on this as well. I'm here to request your approval of our petition for the rezoning so that TROSA can occupy the commons, which has been there for many years, and we would hope that you could indulge us in that. Just quickly, I'd like to go over a little bit some of the physicality, and then I'd like to ask Mr. Jesse Battle with TROSA, who's the director of the men's program, to pick up from there and talk to you a little bit about the program, the great benefit they've offered to the citizens of Durham over the years, and most importantly, the benefits they're going to offer Winston-Salem as well, particularly in this neighborhood. So this is actually an aerial image of the existing commons looking from the southeast. It's largely already there. What they will be building is, I can't tell if the cursor is moving there or not. Okay, well, I'll just point. What they will be building is a new commons campus support facility in the middle of the campus. They will be building some additional residential units on the far end in the woods, as you see there, and they'll also be expanding the existing community space that has kitchen, cafeteria, things of that nature. I'm going to go to the site plan, which is a little bit easier to see. So, again, what they will be building, the darker buildings are the existing ones there. We think this is a wonderful way to repurpose this facility, which is largely empty right now, to move in, occupy the existing buildings, the existing facilities, and we're only going to be building the very lighter beige colored buildings that you see on the plan in front of you. A couple of things specifically that Mr. King may touch on in a minute, but I would like to point out. There is an existing gravel driveway that connects to Harvest Road, which is the street atop the residential street. We are going to be closing that driveway. We will no longer have that connection. Also, on the upper end of the site, you'll see those 4 residential buildings. By ordinance, those could be closer to Harvest than what we've shown them. But again, out of respect for the neighborhood and after discussion with them, we are not going to build them any closer to that street than the existing buildings on campus are. So we're maintaining a larger buffer and a larger setback than is required. The campus support building, which is shown in the middle of the site, we have put specifically in the middle of the site to keep it away from the adjacent residential properties, with the exception, you can see coming off of Old Greensboro on the bottom, there is that notch. That is one private single-family residence that is not part of it, but we have worked with staff. We're going to provide an extra level of landscape buffering there to buffer that property owner from any inconvenience they might experience from this. Also, we've been working with the transportation folks in NCDOT. We have a very interesting road connection situation out front. DOT has some long-range plans, but what we are committing to is the eastern driveway. The southern driveway is going to become one-way in only to make it easier to move in and out. And the second driveway, the one that's closer to the little convenience store at the corner, we're going to be widening that, putting in bigger radiuses and that sort of thing to make it much more easy for folks to get in and out than it is today and not encumber folks on the street. So What I'd like to leave you with in my portion of the presentation is the application is within compliance of the applicable provisions of the UDO. We've worked with the neighbors and the staff to develop a project that will be good for the community. Mr. Battle will tell you a little bit about those neighborhood interactions here in a moment. Staff is recommending approval with the specific conditions that I mentioned and are in the report. The City County Planning Board did vote to provide a recommendation for approval based on a request, and we appreciate your time. And I'm going to hand it off to Mr. Battle, who again is the director of the men's program.
Mr. Battle.
Thank you. My name is Jesse Battle. Live at 12428 North Exeter Way in Durham, North Carolina. I'm the director of the men's program at TROSHA. And what is TROSHA? TROSHA is a chance and a gateway opportunity for that underserved population and a often stigmatized population. We offer services at no cost to individuals. We really address those basic needs because, again, when the sky is your roof, recovery seems not to be an option. So we really want to address those basic needs for individuals to remove that barrier of recovery. What we've done with Winston-Salem, why Winston-Salem? 10% of our population, we have over 450 residents in our program. 10% of those residents are from the Triad. We've had a number of residents from the Triad over the years. And just looking at the partnerships that are available in this rich community, it just kind of expands on our program, and it offers so many opportunities for the residents of our program as well as Winston-Salem. Why the Commons? The Commons area is just a vital component. It just really just epitomizes what our program is about. It's a prime opportunity. And when you look at the numbers, the fourth bullet is the real bullet, because it's financially feasible for us. The $3.8 million for the initial cost is doable. And when we think about that, it is a doable thing for our program to actually build, and we have residents there and actually, grow. The proximity to the educational partners, and again, it's a comprehensive effort for our program to actually build. But it's a doable site. Outreach, we've done a number of outreach with the community, from door to door, informational letters to all the neighbors. We've held 4 different sessions and also offered a tour to the Durham facility for neighbors to come to the Durham facility and see what our facility is like in Durham, to see what the residents are like, to see exactly how we operate our facility, and to see exactly what our facility does to the neighboring communities and what it does to the neighboring areas. So we've made a really comprehensive effort to engage the community and allow them to see transparency in our process. Now, TROSHA as a neighbor, we've been a part of Durham since our inception in 1994. We've been an integral part of the community. We volunteer in a number of community events, the Festival, Strawberry Festival, Operation Graduation. TROSHA is an integral part of the Durham community. Since we built our last facility at the 1820 facility, crime rate has dropped, 34%. Burglaries, it dropped more than 50%. And again, that's when we added 120 people to our facility at 1820 James Street. We've invested in the community, invested $1.7 million annually into local businesses, and plan to invest $10 million in the development of the commons. Again, we are an integral part of the Durham environment. We invest in the community has invested in us, the community has invested in our graduates, allowing our graduates to also prosper within the community. And even the property values, within a mile of our program, the property values have increased 53%. and double compared to the regular Durham average. Because again, our program changes communities. The communities that we've been in, you can see a change in the communities over the years. These are letters from support from the mayors of the Durham, Nick Tennyson, Bill Bell, and the current mayor, Steve Shule. So again, we've been an integral part of the Durham community. I can't stress that enough, how much we've been a part of the Durham community. The Central Park School is a neighbor. I've heard individuals talk about our proximity to schools. Central Park School has been a neighbor of the program for over 16 years. And we have a letter from the school indicating what type of neighbor we are. We are a neighbor that, they feel proud to have us as a neighbor, and we feel proud to have them as a neighbor. This is our Durham James Street facility. This is our main facility. And when you look at that facility there, we have 275 residents on that facility. With the Commons area, we're talking about 200 residents, and the Commons facility is going to be larger acreage than that facility there. That's a 13-acre facility. And again, you can see how the facility is maintained, and you can see how the facility is orchestrated. We operate under a campus type environment, not as a program. We operate as a campus environment. Individuals that get a new chance at life, it's a gateway to a life. And again, I think y'all saw some pictures of the proposed common site there. And again, we really look forward to engaging with Winston-Salem. We look forward to being able to offer an opportunity for our residents to actually prosper, because again, we're dealing with an underserved and often stigmatized population, and they really need the opportunity to be able to move forward. And I'll turn it over to one of our other, Alicia. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Alicia McLaughlin. I reside at 1725 James Street in Durham, North Carolina, 27707. May I know my time limit?
We have 3 minutes left.
Okay. So I was born in High Point, which is not too far from here. Both my parents were substance users and abusers, and my mother suffered from severe mental health issues. Growing up, I was watching my mother go to jail, go to psychiatric hospitals, and just be unstable. My life was very chaotic. I started using at 12. I continued to use for 25 years, seeking solace in drugs and alcohol because I didn't want to feel emotions or the emptiness that was inside of me. I, at 37 years old, went to the detox facility in Durham, found out about TROSA, and went into the program. I graduated in 2012. I became a staff member in 2014. I have since obtained my certification in substance abuse counseling. I'm a North Carolina certified peer support specialist. I am the assistant to the president at TROSA. I'm a mother to 2 teenagers, and I never thought that my life could be what it is today. I stand before you as a soccer mom. I never thought that I would have the opportunity to say that. I'm the mother that I never had and always wanted, and I'm able to give back to individuals like I was given to. And I thank you for the time to speak.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? I think we've got about a minute and a half.
Good evening. I'm Carl Richardson. I am from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I was born and raised here. I reside now at 1513 Kerner Road, Kernersville, North Carolina. I went to your public schools, Browns 14, Kennedy, and also R.J. Reynolds High School, off to Fayetteville State and back to Winston-Salem State. After maybe 15 years of doing the right things, I quit setting my boundaries and started experimenting with using alcohol and drugs. I started in '89. By 1991, I found myself homeless. For the next 10 years, I was in and out of these short-term recovery programs. I lived in your shelters. and out of your shelters. By 2003, during the fall, I met a counselor at your Bethesda Center that was an advocate believer in the TROSA program. We sat and talked over the problems I had and the holes that I had dug for myself financially, no license, taxes. He said TROSA was the program I needed. I needed more recreation in my life besides me leaving a shelter, walking to the bus station, waiting for the library to open and keeping that circle going. So at the time, I went to TROSA.
Mr. Richard, I'm sorry, your time is up there. You can come back during the rebuttal time if you want to finish your wonderful story. We appreciate it. Thank you. All right, the time is up, Susan, for the rebuttal. You sure can. So for the opposition, I have Mr. Robert, is it Dura? Robert Dura. Sorry, Robert, I couldn't quite make out that last thing.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Burke, council members. I'm Robert Dura. I live at 2456 Kingsgate Drive in Winston-Salem, probably about a mile and a half away from where TROSA is proposing to locate its services. And I rise in opposition to it, but not because there's anything negative about TROSA. Everything that I've heard about them and everything that I know about them from my friends and colleagues in Durham suggests that they are an outstanding organization and they do great work. So I don't have a problem with that, right? But I do have some questions as a former high school administrator and person who champions what's needed for children. TROSA proposes to be about 500 feet away from an elementary school and maybe about 1,000 feet away from a high school. And my concern about that is the proximity. If there's foot traffic in and out of the residential component, there are times when there's lots of foot traffic on the parts of kids going to the school, on the parts of buses getting in and out of the school's complexes, traffic just up and down Old Greensboro Road. And my concern is that, as William Julius Wilson pointed out in The Truly Disadvantaged, kids tend to emulate the adults they see in the areas where they have their daily lives. And I wonder what that image is going to present to our children as they are on their way to school 186 days of the year. My thinking is that if you've got a facility, you do have to have ingress and egress of folks who are a part of the facility. And when you have that, you have the opportunity for folks to, not necessarily be on the property. They could be at the store. They could be up and down the sidewalks. It could be anywhere. And I understand that when you talk about a residential program, typically, and I don't know specifically in this case, but typically when you have a residential program, you actually have people who are residents and they don't actually get to leave and come back. And that would be a benefit to the kids that have to go to school and have to walk up and down the sidewalks. So I rose to talk about those kinds of things and to talk about the accessibility of programs in the city at large and the county at large, where the most concentration of services are, and how those services are available for folks or could be available for folks. It seems that a lot of things end up occurring where they occur without a lot of planning for accessibility. So if we had programs in northwest Winston-Salem and the north part of Winston-Salem, central Winston-Salem, if we had them widely dispersed, folks would have access to programs in a lot of different locations. And that would not necessitate a lot of travel to one area or travel from one area. I think that would be beneficial. I don't think that's what we have. And so the other thing that I would think about is what happens to areas in East Winston in particular is our property values and our neighborhoods and our accessibility, as we heard in previous discussions, our accessibility to retail shops and to restaurants and that sort of thing. Those things tend to be slow in getting to East Winston, slow in taking root, and we kind of need some of those things. I would like to hear more about how the residential component of what TROSA intends to do actually functions, and what kinds of security features there are in terms of accessibility, in terms of where will the residents be housed, how will they be housed, are they there 24 hours a day for 21 days, that sort of thing, because I don't know enough about it to be critical, and I don't want to be overly critical. I just want more information about how they're going to do what they do. Is it possible, Mr. Mayor, that TROSA could come back and maybe address some of those questions, and then in a sort of a rebuttal sort of fashion? Or
They'll have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Okay, perfect. And then I'll have some time left.
You have 3 minutes as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anyone else for the opposition at this point? All right, well, they'll go back to 3 minutes for the rebuttal. I think Susan Campbell was on there. Okay.
May I answer his questions?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I would like to say that we have met with the high school and middle school principals, the elementary school, in that vicinity near our location at the Commons, and they're not opposed to our coming to that location. Also, as far as a security feature, we're a structured environment, and we maintain where individuals come and go off of our property. So we're very aware of where everyone is at all times, and so that would not be an issue.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, City Council. My name is Susan Fry. I'm the Clerk of Court here in Forsyth County. This is Sherry Cook. She's the head of probation and parole here in Forsyth County. And Jim O'Neill, our district attorney, sends his best wishes. We're here to say that we are trying real hard to do some things here for our population that would be going to TROSA, working on drug programs here and offering what we can without extra expense. Right now, people who have issues are sometimes coming from ARCA and then going to TROSA. As they've already told you, they have to go to Durham for that service. I think we could serve a lot more of our inmates that we have in the jail today. We have over 800 inmates in there at this time, and if we had a place that they could go to for a 2-year program, I think it would help on our recidivism rate. So I just want to tell you that we're in support of TROSA. I've been aware of it when I worked for the Durham County Sheriff a brief period in my history. TROSA was down the street, and Durham had a great success rate with TROSA. So we're in support of it, and we just want to let you know that today. Ms. Cook.
Hi. I work, I don't know if I should say, 3419 Polo Road here in Winston-Salem. That's where I live. I've worked, and I'm the manager of probation here in Forsyth County, and we're very involved in the reentry of folks that are justice involved in the community. And one of the biggest issues that we're addressing now today in our community, not only with justice involved offenders, but folks that are dealing with drug problems in general. Right now, we don't have a full complement of services that we can send folks to, and this would help us. It would benefit us. I've worked for the Department of Corrections for 23 years, and I will say that I've dealt with TROSA and have dealt with the folks that have successfully completed that, and being able to add a residential component for folks that could stay clean for a longer period of time, because that's where the big issue we have is they can stay clean for a short period of time, but if they have the structure evolved around them for the longer period of time, they can stay clean and sober for hopefully a lifetime, change their lives, and be a productive member of our communities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the rebuttal? All right, Mr. Dora, you have 3 minutes if you.
Thank you. So here's my take on it. I think that we have to have programs, and I think we have to serve people, and I think we have to make things available that help people to regain their lifestyle. And my concern is not that this is the incorrect program or that it is something that we don't need. It's necessary. My concern is, I'm not even in the ward that this is going to take place in, but the ward is bounded by Old Greensboro Road. If you go to the other side of the street, that is my ward. My concern is, does it have to be there? Could it be somewhere else? Could it actually be on another side of town? Could we have more than one site? That's my concern. And I think it's worth considering because if we don't have services widely distributed, folks won't access them no matter what we have. And I think that's an important piece to this. So that's all I have to say about that, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mr. Earl.
Thank you.
I would remind everyone this is a land use decision and not the particular use there. All right, I'll declare the public hearing closed and ask Mr. King to give the report of the planning board, please.
All right. We'll go ahead and start with the location map. This is case 3408, and this is a request to rezone almost 17 acres of property from mixed-use special use zoning in RS9 to general business special use with one permitted use, and that'd be the group care facility C use. And that the council probably remembers that was a text amendment that was brought through in October of last year to create the use that would allow up to 250 residents. You see the subject property there in yellow. It's at the intersection of Old Greensboro Road and Reedsville Road. You see it does have several buildings that are currently located on the subject property. To the north, you've got some single-family homes that are zoned RS9, and as you come across Old Greensboro Road and Reedsville, you've got a mixture of industrial and institutional zoning there. Coming back across Old Greensboro Road, you've got the Harvest Drive neighborhood zoned RS9, and then you can see Petrie Elementary School zoned IP here, and then Atkins would be further just out of this image. And this is an aerial image showing the subject property outlined in yellow and the development pattern that's in the area. This is an image from the east-northeast Winston-Salem area plan. It does show the subject property in the pink, the mixed-use designation. That's reflective of the existing zoning that's there. Some images taken on site. This is looking at the subject property from Old Greensboro Road, some of the existing buildings currently located on site. This was obviously taken on a different day, but this is further down Old Greensboro Road back towards the Harvest Drive intersection. This will be looking back towards the subject property. This is inside of the subject property. These are some of the buildings that you saw in that first image there, some of the existing buildings that are really located on the southern half of the site. And we're going to move a little further into the site back towards those buildings if you can follow the mouse back in that area. And so this is coming back north into the site along Felicity Lane. That's an internal street. These are some of the residential buildings that currently exist there. This is moving out of the site. This is on Harvest Drive. That's the residential street that adjoins the site to the west. And this is looking north on Harvest Drive. The subject property would be to the right. These are just a couple images of some of the homes that are located along Harvest Drive adjacent to the site. And a couple images from Harvest Drive looking back into the subject property. You can see there's a pretty good degree of existing vegetation and screening along that section. This is the site plan that was submitted with this request. So to get you oriented, Old Greensboro Road would be on the right-hand side of this image. Harvest Drive would be to the bottom of this image. And everything that you see in dark blue, those are existing buildings currently on the site. Everything in turquoise would be proposed new buildings that would be constructed. So to kind of walk you through, access would be in its current location here at this section along Old Greensboro Road. Those buildings that I showed you in a previous image are located clustered in this area. As you come back along, this is Felicity Lane. There would be two, I think this is a basketball pavilion located where the small square is there. There would be an addition to this building. Those buildings I showed you in the previous image, the one-story residential buildings, that would be these two buildings on either side of Felicity Lane. And that's, when you looked at that image, that's currently where developed stops today. So the proposal that's before you tonight would extend Felicity Lane. There's a one-story building that would be located here. It's about 16,000 square feet in size, and then 4 new 2-story residential buildings that will be located along Harvest Drive in this area. A couple things to note on Harvest Drive. One that was mentioned earlier, there is an existing gravel drive connection there. That would be removed and prohibited with this request. The second thing that Mr. Jewell mentioned in his comments was, as we looked at this, we felt like the setback that was there for those existing residential buildings was appropriate. It's about 75 feet from Harvest Drive. And we also felt like the existing amount of vegetation that was located in there was also an appropriate level. And we asked for any new buildings to be constructed on the site that they match that standard, and they did. So these buildings that are shown in turquoise, those 4 buildings, they are set back 75 feet from the Harvest Drive right away, and they do contain that 20-foot wide Type 2 buffer area and fencing that you already see on the subject property. These are the elevations. These are for the residential buildings. The 4 residential buildings that I showed you earlier, 2 stories in size, just shy of 7,000 square feet in footprint, and those would be the primary building material. There would be, again, the hardy board, the fiber cement board. So in summary, the site, again, does have a history of a mixture of institutional-related uses that have been there for a number of years. Even though this is a general business, that's the zoning district that's being requested tonight, there are no standalone commercial uses. The only opportunity for any of that would be accessory to the TROSA model. So if there's I think they have a yard mowing component and a moving component. That's the only opportunity for any commercial development. No standalone commercial uses. The site is located at the intersection of 2 thoroughfares and does have access to transit, and it includes a reversion condition whereby the zoning would revert back to the existing MUS and RS9 zoning if a CO is not obtained within 2 years of rezoning approval, should that be granted tonight. This did go to the planning board at their April 11th meeting. We had 5 speakers in support and 1 in opposition. And some of the issues raised, again, the flavor of what you've heard tonight, the amount of support services already in the general area, how the facility will be operated, and the impact on property values. The planning board did vote 5-2 to recommend approval of this request to the council.
Any questions, Mr. King? Councilman Adams?
Mr. King, what was it specifically that the 2 planning board members were so passionate about?
Yep. So I think one of the concerns was precedent. And the way, if you remember, the way the group care facility C use was set up in that text amendment was we only allowed it in one district, and that was general business zoning, and you had to have special use zoning in order to implement that use. I think one of the concerns that was mentioned by some of the planning board members would be, if we got general business zoning on the map and in the door for group care facility C and it went away, would that make an argument for a different business use a little easier in the future? And so I think they were worried about setting the precedent for future business uses there.
Thank you.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Yep. What was the original purpose of the buildings that were constructed on the site? Do you know?
So the original user was Human Service Alliance, and they were there for quite some time, and they had, to my understanding, similar programs where folks did live there, folks did receive some level of treatment. There were different social programs that went on there. That's about the level of my expertise, but it was always a campus setting mixture of uses that were there.
Great, thank you.
Councilman Larson.
The map that we're looking at on the board right now shows a fence between Harvest Drive and the campus. The site plan that I'm looking at that was submitted, it appears that that fence, in fact, encloses the whole compound. Is that not the way it's designed to be? Maybe somebody from TROSA could answer that. But this is in regard to the security question that was raised earlier.
So the fence comes off of the edge of that hammerhead there at the end of Felicity Lane. It comes southward towards Harvest Drive, and it runs back parallel to Harvest Drive, and it looks like it ties in with an existing fence that's already there in between those 2 existing buildings. If you can see where that mouse is, it looks like it's tying into an existing fence in that area.
Well, following the dash and X's, it appears to go around all the new development and then zip back around the new 1-story building that they're building and eventually tie back into the campus up on the front end. I just want clarity on that. Maybe somebody can explain. Could somebody?
Jewel, could you or someone?
In regards to that, relates to access and egress from this site. It appears that there's 2 points of access and there's 1 point of egress designed for automobiles dealing off and on this site. So it is a very controlled site. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, that is a correct statement, and yes, we
Could
would.
you give your name and address
Oh,
for the record,
I
please?
apologize. Keith Arton. I live at 12 Prentice Place in Durham. We do have very controlled access to our site, and we would be surrounding all the residential facilities and where the folks in the program will be living with a fence. So
Enclose the compound, basically.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Arden. Any other questions? All right, thank you. I would now recognize Councilmember Burke.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
And members of the council, I have received information concerning this matter. And when we look at the area, the request for the rezoning is inconsistent with the legacy. The proposed buildings are grouped both in number and proximity to each other, and both in size and square footage. And I want you to know that I do not feel that this will be in keeping with the neighborhood. Not long ago, we had a case that was a zoning case, and I said to this council, I like riding out that way because it has more like a country atmosphere. And some of the people who moved out there later on in the gated area, they retired and they bought their pieces of property. So at this time, I will vote to deny. I move for the approval of the statement of consistency for the denial of this item, and 2, the denial of 3408.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second to deny the motion. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Bessie?
Yeah, I have heard a number of comments from members of the community in support of TROSA, so I think that in consideration of the motion here, it bears emphasis that this is not a vote on whether or not TROSA is a good program or whether or not we want TROSA in Forsyth County. I think that this council has already said yes to those questions in a previous change to our zoning ordinance. The question here is whether this is an appropriate change for this site. To be more specific about the minority opinion voiced on the council, reading from the minutes, the records, Planning Board member George Bryan felt that TROSA could find a facility in an already existing GB area that would be a good fit for them versus changing the zoning of a residential area with mixed use. And I believe that is the recommendation being expressed by the motion here in this case made by the council member representing the area and seconded by the council member representing the closest adjacent ward.
Mm-mm.
I'm sorry.
I'm closest.
That okay. In fact, I thought you had made the second.
No.
Forgive me,
me
Councilmember Adams made the second. But I again am inclined to defer to the recommendation of the council member.
Councilmember Scipio.
Mayor and council, I love this council. I think our role is very important. I want to remind us that we must consider historic actions. This is a land use decision. Is this the appropriate use for this particular activity? It would seem so. But 50 years ago, we made a decision as a council to bulldoze all of East Winston. And what came back were other land use decisions, which was to house social service agencies in East Winston. Land use decisions. Those decisions shaped the image of the eastern part of our city. We have the opportunity
to look completely at our city and stop reinforcing a negative image for parts of our city. It is indeed a land use decision that we must make. I agree with Ms. Burke that there are reasons in how it is configured that say it's inconsistent with our neighborhood. We have more buildings there, they're grouped together in a way that's inconsistent. And I think we have to be mindful of that. But I do want us to be mindful of what the eastern side of our city has to face. And we must reverse that image of what goes into the eastern side of the city. We must change that. And I ask you to look at what you would like your wards to look like. What is the image of your ward? It is not the image of where social services lives in this city. Some of the worst housing is there. We've just had to make a decision to put a store on the eastern side because so few other commercial wants to come to our side. There's a reason for that. It's an image that was created. It's called systemic reasons to have an image in a side of the community. I know that's not what people want to say, but we have to look at what we do in our whole city and make these decisions about things. And I know land use is a decision that we make tonight, and it's inconsistent with the neighborhood.
Councilman Clark.
Just briefly, it sounds like a very good program, but I will defer to the two council folks who really are, and you're just literally across the street.
I'm across the street.
Thank you.
All right, we do have a motion and a second to deny this particular rezoning. All those in favor of the motion to deny, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no.
And yes, the Ms. Brooks.
Can we explain the vote?
The vote of yes is in favor of the motion to deny. All right, the motion passes 7-1, and that's sufficient to deny. Councilmember Burke, yes,
may
ma'am.
I say something?
Yes, please.
When someone made the statement that the principals of the schools, they did not see anything wrong with it. The principals don't live in the neighborhood. The principals come and go. And in the neighborhood, when we put a school where minorities wanted Atkins High School to be a school that was a historical school, they put it on Old Greensboro Road. They named it Atkins. The children who lived in the area are not even attending the school. It is difficult for those in the area to get into school. When some of the people whose children attended the school, when they first started the school, they were skeptical because they didn't want their children coming on that side of town. As if though we were bad people and that we were going to hurt their children. Well, the principal and I had a nice communication. My picture hangs in that building over there. And I have a memory section where I have put in the school on the ground a bench and also some trees where people could just sit. And I dedicated it to the teachers and the principal for their hard work in working with children. After the children had been there for a while, the principal said to me a few years, he said, you know, I don't even have anyone talking about safety anymore. They just love coming. They found out we would not hurt them, that we would be kind to their children. And I said, oh, yes. All of the technology we have in this city, the science and all that we do, a lot of these parents in those kinds of jobs and their children attend Atkins School. It's a leading school. I said, and you know why they feel good? They drive those buses in there. They get off Interstate 40 like you like to go to Greensboro, keep on going to, instead of making your left turn, you want to go back. And they come on Interstate 40 from the west. They make a left turn in Old Greensboro Road. They take those cars and buses to the right on the school campus. And then when they get ready to leave, they do just the opposite. They are very safe over there. We just wish that historical school would have more minorities and that they would benefit from the technology and the science that's going on. I love Atkins School, and I love the area. And sometimes what I do, I ride to New Walkertown Road, and I go on to an area where I make a right, and then when I get at Felicity, I make that right in there, and it gives you sort of a nice little country atmosphere. And then I make my turn on Waterworks Road and hit on back New Walkertown Road. But I just want you to know that we are deeply concerned, and some of the things that been stated tonight, I want you to know I appreciate your support, and that to Trosa, I've not called your name in any way, but I want to say this to you. The people who represent Trosa, you have tried to be very intimidating toward me. You have been sort of bully toward me. And I say I've been around the block too many times to be afraid of whatever you're saying and how you're doing it. You put some guns out there to try to shoot me down. But this is not the way we do. If you want something, you don't bully an elected official going to make me do what you want me to do. I have no fear. I love this city because I know the blue suits are taking care of this city. And I feel good about this city. But I believe that your approach that you should use should have been different with me than the one that you did use.
Councilmember McIntosh, your comment?
I cast what my predecessor, Councilmember Marshall, would have called a little no. It was apparent to me that Councilmember Burke's motion was going to pass. When I started out in community advocacy down in the Holly Avenue neighborhood, we had 6 nonprofit recovery houses in that neighborhood. And I just say that by way of illustration that I don't think that a use like this is necessarily the death knell for a neighborhood. I think neighborhoods can work around it, can recover. So again, I knew this was going to pass, but I just wanted to cast that little no out there.
Thank you. Z8, please. Councilmember Scipio.
I really want to recommend to Trosa to work with us to find a place in this city, because I really think the program is excellent. I really think it's excellent, and I think there are people on this council who probably would cherish it being in their neighborhood. I don't want it to be the death of Trosa for Winston, because I think we can work to try to find an acceptable location.
Okay. Item Z8.
Z8, second reading on ordinance renewing the certificate of public convenience and necessity of Trolley Pub of North Carolina for the operation of one trolley pub in the city of Winston-Salem, recommended by Public Safety Committee.
I do recognize the Chairman of the Public Safety Committee, Councilmember Taylor.
Mayor, members of the council, the Public Safety Committee have properly vetted the idea of trolley pubs. So we certainly I'd move for approval of this item at this time.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Next item, please.
Z9, resolution regarding the North Carolina League of Municipalities 2019 City Vision Conference.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution designating Councilmember McIntosh and Councilmember Scipio as the official? Thank you. Motion second. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that's unanimous. We thank Councilmember McIntosh and Councilmember Scipio for representing us. Item Z10.
Z10, resolution granting a revised permanent access easement and temporary construction easement on city-owned property to Spring Hill Land Trust.
And Councilman Burke, this is in your award.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, I move for approval.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you, Councilman Burke. Item Z11.
C11, Mayor joins recommendations for appointment to the Community Sustainability Program Committee. Ward categories: Leah Lavin, South Ward, term expiring May 2022. Rajesh Kapileshwari, West Ward, term expiring May 2022. Kira Williams, Northeast Ward, term expiring May 2022. Amber Baker, North Ward, term expiring May 2021. Denise Terry, East Ward, term expiring May 2021. Bodiford Stackhouse, Southeast Ward, term expiring May 2022. Angela Young, Southwest Ward, term expiring May 2021. Allison Bowling, Northwest Ward, term expiring May 2021. Dane Kuppinger, term expiring May 2021. Stephanie Freed, term expiring May 2022. And Sarah Pasick, the committee chair, term expiring May 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Thank you. In discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. Thank you. That's unanimous. Item, excuse me, Z12.
Z12, Mayor joins recommendation for appointment to the MWBE Advisory Committee. Carolyn Milliron, construction category, term expiring December 2020.
So moved.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Z13.
Z13, Mayor joins recommendations for appointment and reappointment to the Loan Committee. S. Justin Gomez, term expiring February 2022. Doug Atkinson, term expiring December 2020. Carol Davis, term expiring December 2020. Darnella Cook, term expiring February 2020. Kevin Cole, term expiring February 2020.
Your motion.
Move for second.
Motion second. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. Thank you very much. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, I guess I can get that one in.
Yeah. Motion and second to adjourn. All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, we adjourn.